I got so many things I'm good at, so many things I'm interested in, and so many things I'm passionate about. How do I choose which one to monetize? Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
And you get a chance to interact with them. To me, that's full-time ministry. You get to serve them. You can be a tenant. You're going to be paying somebody forever.
If you do not niche down, you will never be successful. You'll be so busy just trying to catch everyone and never reaching the right one.
The bottom line is, the truth of the matter is, you're not going to die happy, because tattoo diabetes is just like a thief. It brings in itself and then it opens it.
I want to provide content and things that are going to help change lives, and I simultaneously want to receive a blessing from that.
And embrace that calling. Because I believe God's blessing that stuff. God's blessing that stuff.
Now here's your host, Kamon Hahn.
Welcome back. Episode 2 of the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. I'm excited for you to be on today. Thank you for those who have already subscribed and shared. And if you haven't already, I'm going to invite you to please share this podcast. Share it to your social media platform. Share it with someone else who you know is interested in this or maybe have some of these same questions. Just share it with somebody that can be blessed by it. Because we believe there's someone out there who has this same struggle, and this podcast can be an answer for them. I want to ask you to do one thing today, one thing above everything else, which is to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and type in Monetize Your Ministry podcast, you'll find us. We'll ask you to subscribe there. And we believe that if you go over there, you'll find also some shorts and stuff that you'll enjoy, and it'll give you some more from the podcast. All right, as you're coming on here, just drop something in the comments if you're live with us, so let us know that you're on. And I'm going to take the opportunity to bring up our guest co-host for the day. She is an artist, and she is also a pastor at a local congregation. So I want to welcome Regina Nicole. Regina, welcome.
Hello.
So good to have you on.
Good to be here. Excited to be here.
Yes. Regina is leading in a congregation in Cleveland, Ohio, actually Euclid, Ohio. Let me be more specific. And you guys just did something amazing. You and your senior pastor, yourself, and the rest of your church, y'all just opened a brand new building. It's a really cool experience to see vision become reality. So glad to have you on. I know you're super busy. You took some time out to be with us today. And you're also an artist. And we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to discuss this topic, how to choose when I'm good at so many things. But Regina, I want to ask you just up at the top. You hear the title of the podcast, Monetize Your Ministry. What does that mean to you? When you hear Monetize Your Ministry, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think just trying to use the gifts that God has given you, but using the gifts that God has given you to be able to give you the resources to be able to continue to live life and to further the ministry as well.
Yeah.
That's monetizing it.
Yeah. We're going to get into our topic, how to choose when I'm good at so many things. But I thought this would be a good place. We talked about this a little bit last week. But if someone has an objection, just even you, do you feel there's any challenge with this whole concept of monetizing and ministry at the same time?
Yeah. I think for sure. I think most people struggle with it in some sense, right? And I shouldn't say most people, but I'll say I know I did. And I'm really trying to understand and kind of balancing, okay, I'm doing this for God, but at the same time, money is involved. And I think the way that I personally, I guess, was raised and what I saw in the church, it kind of seemed like it was something that didn't go hand in hand. But I think where I'm at right now, when you are able to find a way to monetize the ministry, you're able to give the ministry more focus. You're able to give the ministry more time, more energy, and essentially, when you're able to monetize it, you're able to maximize it. And so you're like maximizing the ministry by monetizing it, if that makes sense.
Well, that makes a lot of good sense. And I thank you for sharing it that way. When you're able to monetize it, you're able to maximize it. I love the way you just shared it. All right. So here's the topic. All right, Regina, and we're gonna kind of wrestle this out. How to choose when I'm good at so many things. Let's delve into that. I know you might have some questions. There's some things even in your journey that you had questions with. Let's just jump into that today. And if you are watching in the comments, just go ahead and put your questions in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's such a relevant question, especially for a lot of creatives. I know that's the word, like the buzzword right now is creatives, where it's kind of just like you're just naturally a creative person. So I think for me, that's kind of where I found myself, where it's just like, okay, I'm good at a lot of different things, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, if I'm good at all these different things, how do I know which one I'm supposed to choose? And then more importantly, how do I choose like which one which one is the most lucrative, right? Or do I follow like this one where it's most lucrative, or do I follow the one that I guess I might be more passionate about, or that might seem like a more spiritual approach? Like, I guess what would you kind of say in that regard if somebody's trying to choose from that realm?
Yeah, I'll take the first part of this first, right? I think you said it, you're creative, right? And a lot of us, we identify as creatives. Like we don't think we are just good at one thing. We're not just good at this, right? And I think to your point, this is a conversation I was having with someone earlier. It's so easy for us because people see us in one arena to only see us in that one arena, right? Because they see you up front speaking, they can only see you as a speaker. Because they see you leading in terms of meetings, they can only see you as an administrator. And I think for us, a lot of us, we know you may see me this way, but I have all of these different gifts, right? But not only gifts, I have a lot of interests. And so what might feel like a really good thing, you're really gifted at a lot of stuff, can also feel like a very like conflicting, confusing, like, oh my gosh, like I can go do this and I'll be good at it. I could go do that, I'll be good at it. But we also want to know, with all of my gifts and with all of my interests, like, is there one that I should be focused on more than others, especially when it comes to monetization, taking it and turning it into something that I can be paid for on my own? And I think that's just to not to answer a question, but it's to call out the struggle. It's one that more people struggle with than you think. So if you're on here now and you're listening to this or you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, I'm struggling because I don't know what to pick, you're in good company, because a lot of people are dealing with that challenge. And I think just by recognizing, one, that everything I have, I can't take action on it all at the same time. That is also a good place to start, right? Because I think, and we can talk about that a little bit more, Regina. I don't know. Do you think that's a thing that people worry about? Should I start multiple things at the same time? Like, do you think that's something that people kind of wrestle with?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that me. yeah. For sure. I think now you're coming down my lane a little bit. Where it's kind of just like, when you're gifted at so many things, and then you can try to do, okay, I'm gonna do these. Say I pick 4, and you try and do 4 things at one time. Something's gonna suffer. I don't know. You're the expert here, but in my what am I saying? In my life, how it's happened, when you're trying to do so many at one time, something has kind of like taken a back seat. So I guess like that's kind of the question that I'm trying to get at. Like, okay, how do you know which place to, kind of start at?
Yeah.
Or which place to lean into, rather than trying to do it all.
Yeah.
And not choosing. Yeah. So I definitely think people struggle with that. For sure.
Yeah, I think to just underscore what you just said, it is good to focus on one thing or focus on a limited number to start, because you're limited, right? You're limited in your time, you're limited in your attention, you're limited even in your funds that you can put behind it. And so, and then here's another point, right? Whenever you're starting to work on anything, people then begin to associate you with the thing that you're doing, right? And you want to be doing something long enough that people start saying, that's what she does. Now, if you start doing a bunch of different things, people start going, oh, she's into this. Oh, he's into that. Oh, he's into this. And after a while, a confused mind always says no. After we go, okay, they can't make up their mind. I'm not even going front. You're like, I don't even, so what does so-and-so do? What does he do? What does she do? I don't know. Yesterday it was this, today it's that. So it's really good to help the people, your audience, the people that will eventually pay you, the people that will eventually support you, the people that will eventually sign up for, do whatever. It's good to help them by staying in a lane, at least for a while, because what it does, it begins to associate you with a thing rather than you just kind of all over the place. Then it also allows you to kind of just get better at that thing. And so the question you asked wasn't that, but I thought I had to say that because someone may be asking, do I have to? Do I have to? Right. And I would say to start, you should be more focused. Now, at some point, you may get to the point where you can diversify, but to start, you want to be more focused. And so let me get back around to your question. What do I pick? All right. This might sound like a really bad answer, and I'll just say this for now, and then I know I'm going to clean it up later. I am less concerned about getting it right at the beginning when you start. I'd say pick something and get started. Now, there's some criteria for picking that something, but I'm less concerned about people who have multiple gifts picking the wrong thing than them picking anything and just staying stagnant. That's my biggest burden right now. I mean, this might be my hobby horse for the year 2023. Like, pick something and start with it rather than looking for the perfect something to pick.
Yeah, man, I completely 100% agree on that. And just want to underscore just that last point you said too, which is just both those things are so profound. Like you gotta start somewhere, because you're right. A lot of us creatives and overthinkers, I'll raise my hand to go first to say it's me. It's like if you spend so much time just thinking through all the things that you're great at and the things that you could be doing, that you will look up and it'll be like, 3 months has gone by and you've done absolutely nothing when you could have, like you said, started somewhere with something and begin to find your way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're an overthinker, if you're someone who has paused on your stuff because I could be doing something else, shiny object syndrome. Oh, what about this? You're in good company, right? I'm there, Regina's there, and the listeners of this podcast, we're there. And that's why we're here, because we want to help you, like, one, discover, but also we want to just really help you deploy. You got to put something out there. Because I believe, Regina, like, one of the ways you figure that thing out is by doing something. You start going, you know what, that didn't quite work, but it's crazy. Something that you are doing in that thing begins to almost nudge you towards that side. Like, okay, what about this? Right? In fact, if I can use you as an example, tell people what you're doing now in terms of your monetized ministry.
Yeah. So I've kind of coined myself as an art therapy pastor, where I am helping women to take their power back. And I do that through some classes that I call paint and heal classes. They're kind of like paint and sip classes, but they're very much so not like paint and sip classes, very more leading through a therapeutic experience. And so I use art to help people process. So that's one piece of what I do. Secondary piece, they're paint and heal classes. I also am just an abstract artist, so I sell my art, my paintings, which all have therapeutic meanings attached to them, which are kind of centered around God and mental health meanings of the paintings. And then I have a program that I call Take Your Power Back, where I coach women, women coaching program.
Yeah. I love it. I want to just go back to the first sentence you said. I help. And say that sentence again, because I want to use that as a way to help our listeners and our viewers this evening. Can you say that sentence
Yeah,
one more time?
yeah, help women take their power back.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so first of all, right, I think as we talk about Monetize Your Ministry podcast, what's different about this podcast is that we're very clear that this is about people who are serving people in some capacity that now want to, as Regina, you said it so well, maximize that service, maximize that ministry. And one of the ways you maximize that is to monetize it. Well, you got to have a statement that talks about who you help, right? Now, can you monetize without helping people? Absolutely, right? But if we're talking about ministry, it has to have a component of helping people. And so you need to come up with some draft statement. And here is something I'm giving you permission to do if you're a listener and a viewer of this podcast. Come up with a draft that you give yourself permission to change at some point. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the ultimate draft. It has to be just the first draft. I help. Who do you help? What is their problem? What is it they want? I help women, right? You just said women who struggle with, right? And there's some struggle that is involved in what you just said, Regina. And there's a way that you help them through creating experiences. And so for anyone on here, part of this monetization of your ministry is a clarification of just who are you passionate about helping. Now, some things may change, right? It may change who you're passionate about helping, right? It may become more refined. What also might change is how you help them. It might become more refined. And so let's talk about your journey a little bit, Regina. Did you start? And I'm laughing because we talked about this in our pre-interview. Like, what did you start off doing to get here? Like, did you just say, I'm Regina the artist, we're going to start painting, and we're going to start doing paint and heal? Like, how did you start? Because I think you're a good example for someone on here who might be stuck.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think I have all my life been a creative, right? So I've always just been doing creative things. You know, in my pastoral, I've never been like the traditional pastor either. So it's always been like this creative things. And I was a chaplain, creative things. But I would say when it comes to monetizing ministry, I started a podcast first that I wanted to do. And I had t-shirts that went along with my podcast. I was super excited about it. And I had everything written out. Actually, I had whole plan for at least, several months of what I was going to talk about, who I was going to interview, and different things like that. And I got started, and I recorded, I want to say, between 2 or 3 episodes. I need to go back and I don't even know. I'm still there. It was called A Word from My Book.
I listen to the podcast. I want you to know, Regina, I listen to the podcast. Right?
Yay! Look, it was A Word from My Book, and I wanted to help people really just let them share their stories. And to know that their stories matters, and that we could learn from your stories, and that you had the power to edit your story, right? So even what I'm doing is still along those lines, but that's where I started, right? Started with the podcast. Within those few weeks of me starting and recording the 2-3 episodes, I started painting along that journey somewhere, and at some point, I realized that that's where I wanted to focus my time and attention. And so I paused on the podcast and started painting for fun and in a ministry space, because I was painting with my worship leader online while he was live. He was singing, I was painting. And then I realized I liked it. I started painting offline when we weren't on there. And then on the live, people started saying that they liked my work, and somebody said that they wanted to purchase something. And I was like, what? And then from there, I just kind of built a portfolio of painting. And then, where am I stopping? Okay, then I ended up talking to somebody who looked at my work, who was a professional artist. And she told me that she took my same painting and put her name on it and put on her Instagram page, that she would sell that same painting for $2,000. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then that kind of helped me to kind of change my mindset about it. But yeah, I would say I got to where I'm at now from started something, and then the something kind of just took me a long journey of trying different things, and then it kind of all refined itself to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I think you're telling us something here, which is this is a journey, right? The process of choosing and clarifying is a process, and it's a journey. And if you did not start the podcast, do you think you'd get to where you are now?
No. And let me tell you why. Because I did think about it, because I didn't want to just say yes because it's for the podcast. But the reason I'm saying that, I think that helped my mindset, right? To even get my mindset in the space of I can do this, to my mindset in the space of that I can like create something that could be monetized and could be used as ministry, and it can all coincide together. So I think it was even from a mindset thing. I think that was the beginning of me shifting my mindset to say, hey, this stuff is all possible.
That's so good. And I think, as Regina is saying, right, like mindset, you got to almost get off of thinking about something and doing something. And as you do that something, there is a clarity that comes. And so here are some things that you might want to look for to help you with clarity. And one of them, I'm going to tease you, Regina, about this. One is you got to look for, what am I already good at, right? Like there's some things that you're already good at that you want to look at. Okay, do I have some proficiency here? Have I studied a lot in this area? Have I developed some skill in this area? Right? So I'm doing ministry, and maybe there's a lot of stuff I'm doing, but out of everything else, this is the one I'm most studied in or most skilled in. This is the area that I have the most proficiency. Also, you can look and see what do you have most passion in, right? Like there's an overlap between what you're proficient with, but also what you're interested in. Because there's some things you are good at that you're not that interested in. And I think it's okay to say that does not have to, you don't, like if you're going to monetize your ministry and do something of your own, it shouldn't be something that you hate. But find something that you really have interest in. How do you figure that out? Like, what do you do that no one has to even ask you to do, right? You just will geek out on that, watch a lot of stuff on it. It's just something you're totally passionate about. But I also think, as to go with what you said, there has to be some problem that this thing is solving. It has to be some problem that someone sees as needing to be solved for them. Now, that someone could have been you at some point in your life, right? It could have been you with some part of your journey, could have been you at some point in your life. But then there are other people who share that same problem and share it enough that they will be willing to pay to get that problem solved. Those are some of the things I'd say. Just those three P's, right? Proficiency, something you're good at. Passion, you got interest in. And a problem, what people are looking for a solution to. And they're so interested in it that they are willing to pay. And here's where I'll tease you, Regina. Before we got on here, I asked you, so when you said you just started painting, and this was during the pandemic, right? But you were like, you took art classes before, and you were an artist in high school and stuff, right?
Absolutely not.
which is hilarious to me, that I'm saying you must have proficiency, something you're good at, and it's like, not that one for you. But it's something that you actually grew proficiency in, which is probably, if we're honest, Regina, you've had art in you that you just didn't know.
Right. Well, so that's, I think, even it goes back to your point, like that you were making at the beginning, where it's kind of like it's a journey. So when I say I'm creative, I have been doing art in every form, shape, just my whole life. I'm a crafty person, but I wasn't like an abstract artist, right? And painting, but I was like, doing different things for worship services or trying to create little craft projects. So I've just always, I think, from art and the perspective of art, yes, I was artsy, but I did not know that I could create these beautiful abstract art pieces. No. And now, so yeah.
And for anyone here, and we'll talk about this more in future episodes, what you got to realize is you can look at the thread of your service, right? Look at the thread of what you've done to serve others. And eventually there'll be something that ties everything together, right? Because as you've shared, there's something else. Like what's the next step, right? There's always going to be a next step, but there has to be a first step in order for there to be the 10th step. And so for anyone on here, if you're talking about how to choose, I'll say you can use some of those filters, right? Proficiency, passion, a problem, right? And then sometimes it's also what other people can reflect back to you, because we're not the best at knowing what we're good at. In fact, most of us struggle with recognizing and giving ourselves credit for what we're good at. Most of us struggle with it. So Regina, that lady says to you, if I did this, I charge $2,000. I don't even know what you were charging back then, but I know it wasn't probably half of that, right?
It was nothing. I wasn't even doing it yet. That's why I was like, what is she talking about?
Right. And so here is what, for someone else too, look at what people have been telling you. Are you really good at that? Look at what people have been asking you for help with. Look at what people have been even offering you to pay you to do for them, even if they haven't paid you. They've been offering, hey, man, you're so good at this. Can you teach me how to do this? I pay you for that. Even if they make it as an offhanded joke, pay attention to that. Because most of us don't pay attention enough to the things that we are affirmed for, the things that we are encouraged to do. And I want to just encourage you this week, if it's just 1 week, pay attention to what people have been affirming, are going to affirm you for, the questions they're asking you. And then if you still have a bunch of options, pick something. That's what we're saying. Pick something. It may not be what you end up with, but what you start with is the most important step, because you started. And that's what that's what I really just want to encourage. That's my burden for somebody, right? Somebody is watching this, listening to this, and they're like, I got so many things. I'm going to wait until I get God himself just taps me on the shoulder. And God is saying, nah, pick something and go with it. And I'll lead you in the direction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any final questions, thoughts you have, Regina, before we get off? I want to make sure we stay close to our time that we promised people. We're only going to be 30 minutes for our episodes. Any questions or thoughts you have?
No, I think that your last statement is a good place for people to take. That's like such a bite-sized thing for us. I think creatives, but literally anybody and everybody, we can literally talk ourselves into, okay, I'm going to do it when, I'm going to start when, I'm going to, it's like next week or this, or like you said, we're waiting for God to like tap on our shoulder. And a lot of times it's like we're waiting on all the things. We literally already have everything that we need. And so I just want to kind of like underscore what you just said, like from my journey, that's been the thing that I realized from starting and starting prior to having all the answers. Like you find the answers along the way. You know what I mean? So yeah, just don't be afraid to find the answers along the way, because that's where all the answers are going to come. Absolutely.
And I think I'm glad, Regina, you're going to be one of our guest co-hosts. We'll figure out how often we'll get you back here. But I think I'm excited that we had you on today, because I think you will inspire someone by your story and just being willing to start without everything being clear, the whole roadmap being laid out, just being able to say, I'm going to start, and then now showing us a few years later that things are getting clearer, that you do have that statement, right? And I want to just also give everyone that homework. Come up with your statement. I help blank who struggles with, right? What his struggle is. And just if you come up with that, it gets you moving in a direction. But you are a great example of that. And the other people out there, I know you got something. You know you got something. God knows you got something. And all it takes is for you to take action and to start, and then to see the rest of the steps. All right. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe, share this podcast. We'll be back next week to talk more about some of these topics so that we can learn how to monetize our ministry.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kamon Hines. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.